It's Dragalge. So beautiful, so majestic, and so chock full of high-end attack breakpoints. Dragalge is one of the topmost meta threats in the Premier Cup Ultra League thanks to the newly buffed Dragon Tail. Given that the Premier Cup Ultra League is coming up after the weekend here, Season 8 of GBL, I figured I'd do a nice little deep dive for you guys, take you into the Seahorse Sea Hell here on the Dragalge, letting you know why it's so good, what good teammates are for the Dragalge, and then most importantly of all, those secret IV spreads. With the Dragon Tail buff, Dragalge actually has a lot of really important attack-based breakpoints, and if you do go for one of the attack-weighted Dragalge spreads I give you here, you could save yourself like 188 XL candy and roughly 180,000 Stardust, building the better Dragalge. You thought the rank 1 Dragalge was the way to go? Nah man, it's like the rank like 458 or something like that. At any rate, let's get into it. By the way, if you enjoy deep PvP dives such as this one, well, make sure to subscribe. Like down there. Subscribe. So starting out here, we have a oversimplification of the Premier Cup Ultra League. First thing you want to know about Dragalge is that it's a Dragon and Poison type Pokemon using Dragon Tail. Its best charge move is going to be Aqua Tail. Dragon Tail was buffed to be kind of like Dragon Breath, so it is nice to have like that rapid, fast move damage and that early charge move to back it up. And then for a closing shot, it also has Outrage and Gunk Shot to choose between. So Outrage is going to be the more compulsory move, better in most situations, but of course that Gunk Shot, levitating the trash can of doom, can definitely put the squeeze on the fairy type Pokemon coming in to counter our Dragon Tail user here. So how does it fit into this oversimplified Ultra League Premier Cup meta? Well, it's basically going to be a Dragon type Pokemon. And the big perk it has right out of the gate as a Dragon type Pokemon is that it beats all the other like Dragon type Pokemon in the Premier Cup Ultra League. It beats both the Dragonites, it beats the Gyarados, which is the pseudo dragon, it beats the Kingdra, it beats the Goodra. It is the dragon slaying dragon, and it's not even like a meme Pokemon because its advantages just kind of go on from there. It's like it's beating the other dragons and it's doing a lot of stuff better than they do, which is just phenomenal. Of course, when it comes to the Kingdra and the Gyarados matchups, you're going to need my secret IV spreads to pull ahead in those matchups, but for the other dragons, yeah, you're just kind of kicking their butt left and right. Then when it comes to the Dragon Bane here, the fairy type Pokemon, you do have the potential to reach the Gunk Shot to just nuke them. Typically, because you're not weak to Charm, you're Charm neutral, because Poison resists fairy type attacks, Dragon is weak, so it cancels out your Charm neutral. You do have more opportunities to reach the Gunk Shot, and in many circumstances you can like bait with an Aqua Tail and then throw the Gunk Shot to possibly win. Where our other Gunk Shot user up in this cup, the Obstagoon, usually has a rougher time because it is weak to that charm damage, so if Obstagoon has prior damage, it's probably not going to be reaching that trash can just in time, where Dragalge, having that resistance, can potentially reach it. Then when it comes to the Steel type matchups, Dragalge has a pretty good time against like the 3 Steel type Pokemon that work in this. Or 4, there's Bronzong. Bronzong eats this thing for breakfast, but Bronzong basically eats every single Dragon type for breakfast, so no surprises there. But you do have a good matchup against the Empoleon. You can beat the Ferrothorn if you have my secret breakpoints. And then when it comes to the Stunfisk, the Galar Stunfisk, you'll probably lose, but you've got a better time than most of the other dragons do, and you got that Aqua Tail damage that can hurt it. In fact, if they throw Rock Slide and you don't shield it, then you do have the potential to take it out in the 2-shield situation. Of course, a smarter Galar Stunfisk will know that they could just go straight Earthquake and take you out that way. They don't have to bait. But if they're playing silly games, then they can get some silly prizes when fighting Dragalge. Then when it comes to the Fire, Water, Grass Pokemon, this is one of the main areas where Dragalge really shines. They're just completely dominating the heck out of basically all of them. Fire type Pokemon don't really have a whole lot to do against you. When it comes to the grass types, you actually like fully wall Venusaur to the next level. Like other Dragon type Pokemon, you know, they have to be wary of the Frenzy Plant if their name is like Gyarados or Kingdra there. And then when it comes to like Dragonite and Goodra, they really don't like Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does hurt them a lot, but you resist Sludge Bomb, and you double resist the Frenzy Plant. So yeah, you wall Venusaur to like a whole nother level, so it's pretty ridiculous. One kind of issue you have here though is when it comes to the Politoed and the Swampert. If they have Blizzard or Earthquake, then that can put a pretty big squeeze on you. Of course, if you shield those bigger charge attacks, then you have the opportunity to take them down. And then when it comes to fighting type Pokemon, the Machamp always is like praying to get that Rock Slide damage off on the flying dragon type Pokemon to maybe take them out. It's only neutral to you, so you wall them really heavily when it comes to that. Machamp does not want to fight this thing ever. Then when it comes to the more neutral Pokemon, against Dark types, you generally dominate all the Dark type Pokemon, just whapping them with that Aqua Tail damage. The Ghost type matchups can be a little bit of a toss-up, circumstances depending. Usually what charge moves they have are going to dictate the fight a bit. And then when it comes to Psychic Pokemon, that's your main Achilles heel here, is that heavy Confusion damage. Now, how prevalent are Confusion users going to be in the Ultra League Premier Cup now that Dark types are on the rise? I can't exactly tell you, but they do be out there yet. And yeah, Dragalge does not like dealing with them. And then when it comes to like Slowbro and like Executor in particular, like the Aqua Tail damage really isn't doing anything either. So yeah, if they trap you, it's going to be pretty bad. And then when it comes to Snorlax, which is a more neutral matchup, not featured on this simplified graphic, Snorlax generally beats you. It's just outpacing you to those body slams, so it's just kind of a rough matchup for you. Although getting an attack breakpoint on it can help out a little bit, but generally Snorlax is going to have the advantage in that fight. And then when it comes to Nidoqueen, who is a new top meta threat, there's no poison or ground on this graphic either. You generally beat the Nidoqueen because you are reaching those Aqua Tails. Of course, if it lands an Earth Power on you, well, that's not gonna be great because you're poison type. It's gonna hurt. So just try to avoid that. But yeah, overall, Dragalge, new Dragon type Pokemon, doing the Dragon type job, generally better than what the Dragons already are doing. Beats all the Dragons. You have an out against Fairy type attackers, so Dragalge is looking like a boss. So of course you probably want to know what are some good teammates for the Dragalge here. Well, it is a Dragon type Pokemon, and I think it's best to think of it as a like stand-in for Dragonite or Gyarados. So any team that would use those Pokemon, you could be using Dragalge instead, and that could make the team even better. So obviously pairing it with like Empoleon or Kingdra, that's like the bread and butter. So you could go like Dragalge with Kingdra as a safe swap and Empoleon in the back, or you could go with Empoleon as the lead with the Kingdra safe swap with Dragalge in the back. So that's kind of like the basic idea. You could also use it in ABB teams with Gengar or Venusaur, and probably Nidoqueen as well, maybe Skuntank even, poison type Pokemon, right? Because then you're able to bait in counters for each other, and Dragalge is pretty neutrally good against a lot of things. Gengar and Venusaur is also pretty neutrally good against a lot of things, so they can back up each other pretty well. And then I think it also pairs pretty decently with Ice type Pokemon as well. Ice type's in the lead because you are able to wall those fighting and Fire type Pokemon so well with Dragalge there. So with all this basic stuff out of the way, let's get into the meat of this, the breakpoints. And here it is. This isn't every single breakpoint that Dragalge has in the Premier Cup Ultra League. I think like well over half of the Premier Cup Ultra League Dragalge can get breakpoints on, but these ones are the ones that I curated that I felt were more significant for the Dragalge, and then I highlighted the ones that are the most significant for Dragalge here. So to read this, these are the Pokemon that you can get breakpoints on. The attack is the attack stat that you're going to want to hit. The defense is a defense stat that you're going to hit. The only defense stat that really seems to be relevant is against the Dragonites, the 173.62 plus, and all of the spreads that I'm going to be talking about after we talk about this. I will give you the canned IV spreads to make your life even easier. All of them will hit this defense, like well above this defense. I think like the 15, like 215 or something might miss this, but it's important to include it. And then when it comes to the flips question mark, these are the matchups that you're going to be flipping. So the 1 even shield, the 2 even shield, this is the 1-0 shield advantage, this is the 0-1 shield disadvantage. And then the ones that say AT is just going straight Aqua Tail, because if you are able to land Gunk Shot or Outrage in these matchups, then you can flip them, but landing those bigger charge moves can be a little bit tenuous, so just going straight Aqua Tail can make your life a lot easier. and obviously hitting these big breakpoints here can make it a little bit nicer. Just kind of glaze down the list here. You can see that like a 154 attack stat can hit the majority of these, but the main money maker, like the big deal here, probably the biggest deal of them all, is going to be that Talonflame matchup, where hitting the 155 attack stat can let you flip the 1-1 and the 2-2 more consistently, which is pretty huge there. And I recommend generally a 155 to 156 attack stat. Main reason being is because, once again, Talonflame, if they have the rank 1 best buddy, then you need to have a 155.89 attack stat, which you basically can't hit unless you hit 156. And then you have other perks with the 156 as well, getting a breakpoint on Scrafty, making that matchup a little bit nicer. The matchup doesn't flip because the matchup is ultimately dependent on them landing Dark Pulse or not. But it does make it a bit nicer to chunk them down. It can allow you to flip the Ferrothorn matchup, which is nice. And when it says missable 156, that means that if they have a big enough defense stat, you could be missing it even with a 156 attack stat. But it seems rather unlikely to me based on what IVs I expect the opponent to have. So don't worry about the missable 156 too much there. But yeah, then you can also get a breakpoint on Shadow Dragonite, making that more consistent, and you can get it on Toxicroak, which enables the 0-1 shield situation, so you can beat them with them shielding once and you shielding 0 times, which is really nice. And then yeah, that's mostly it for the 156 attack stat there. And of course, going above the 155 can also help you hit a breakpoint on Snorlax. Snorlax still generally has the advantage over you, but dealing that 1 extra damage to Snorlax in an uneven situation can probably help you avoid getting hit by a body slam, which could be nice. Other important things to highlight here with at least a 155 attack stat, you do have the Kingdra with the 1-1 and the 2-2. The 2-2 often will end up being a draw, but getting that 1-1 is also pretty big, something that the rank 1 Dragalge can't do here. And then you also have the 2-2 on Gyarados. You got the 2-2 on Nidoqueen, which is also pretty big. Then the non-highlighted ones don't matter a whole heck of a lot. It's just like 1 extra damage off a Dragon Tail, which can be useful in some uneven situations, but they're not really worth writing home about for the most part. One thing I did forget to mention before when we were talking about 156 though, is against the Venusaur. Now this is a matchup that you straight up dominate, like no matter what, but when I was going over the different matchup simulations, I was finding that you could KO on the fast move more often when you hit that breakpoint compared to KOing on the charge move to help them like not get another Sludge Bomb or Frenzy Plant to hurt you with. So I think it just shores up that Venusaur matchup to like the next level there if you're hitting the 156 attack stats. So TLDR of all this number jargon here is 155, very okay, but the 156 opens up some doors to higher power there, so generally I prefer the 156. But what IV spreads are even hitting these stats anyways? Well, I handpicked a handful of them for you here to make your life easy. Now these aren't every single IV spread that can hit the attack breakpoints necessary, they're just ones that stood out to me, and they do use the Egg Hatch, Raid Catch IV spreads, which is also really nice, makes it really easy and consistent to get these IVs. Some of them you can even get with a lucky trade, which can be also nice for saving some Stardust there. But yeah, I highlighted the attack stats that they're hitting, and I also highlighted the HP stat. The defense stat doesn't really matter, but I will talk about it a little bit. And this isn't really sorted by anything. I just pulled this from my sheet. I could have organized this a little bit better for you guys, but I didn't, I'm sorry. But I will talk about the IV spreads here. So generally the bolded ones are going to be better, and I do prefer the 156 attack stat. Now the one that I prefer the most, the ideal spread here, Ryan Swag's golden spread for the Dragalge, is going to be the 14-12-12, 156.2 with a 143 HP stat there. The 15-13-13 isn't all that much different. It is only 0.2 less attack and only 0.2 less defense, so it's not that big of a difference there. You don't have to split hairs over that. They're basically identical stat spreads there, so these are like the top two. Then when it comes to number 3, it's a little bit of a toss-up between the 13-10-11 and the 15-11-15. The 15-11-15 does have that one higher HP stat, but what I don't have featured here is the defense stat, and with this spread in particular, you drop your defense like really heavy there, so I feel like with that, you're probably going to be catching some charge move breakpoints, which means your like 1 HP advantage is probably going to get lost pretty quick there, so I don't really think it's that great. And then when it comes to the 13, 10, 11, you do have that slightly higher defense stat, and then you have the slightly higher attack stat, which helps against those missable 156 breakpoints we talked about in the other section. Now, if you're not going for the 156 and you're dipping below, then I feel like you may as well go all the way, because you're going to be missing the best buddy Talonflame breakpoint anyways, and for that reason I feel like for the non-156 spreads, the 12, 10, 15 stands tall compared to the other 155 spreads, because you're getting that 155, which gets you the non-best buddy rank 1 Talonflame, and then you get that 146 HP stat. Now HP, isn't that big of a deal. Obviously I'm favoring having like slightly higher defense compared to the 144 HP on the 156 spreads. So why am I caring about it here? Well, it can help you out a little bit more against those charm matchups. Your consistency for going like Aqua Tail into Gunk Shot is slightly improved with having that higher HP stat. And then it can also help out a lot potentially in the Dragalge mirror. And I'm not super comfortable on this, but it does look like this is helping the one shield situation, or just the Dragalge mirror in general. It seems to be helping out quite a bit. When it comes to the 0-0 and the 2-2, that's generally going to end on the charge attack, so you having a higher attack split anyways is going to help you win that. And then I was noticing with the 1-1, it's just kind of a goofy matchup, because like not throwing the Aqua Tail can help out a lot, but then doubling up on Aqua Tail and then clipping your opponent's fast move can also help a lot. And just playing around with that a lot on PV Poke there, I was noticing that the 46 HP stat here was helping us eke out that win more consistently, so just extra special highlight to this spread. Of course, these spreads aren't too shabby either. There are a lot of like 156 breakpoints that your opponent having worse IVs can still allow you to hit with a non-156 attack stat, and these guys do get pretty close, and they do have slightly nicer HP, so I feel like they're definitely worth counting in and not counting out, especially if you don't have like a bajillion Dragalges to choose from. So to recap, the 14, 12, 12 is the ideal spread, the 15, 13, 13 is basically the same as the 14, 12, 12. After that, I prefer the 13, 10, 11, then the 15, 11, 15, and then after that the 12, 10, 15. These other three spreads here, definitely don't count them out. And then yes, the difference between the 14, 10, 15 and the 14, 11, 15 is literally just one defense stat. The level doesn't change, but the differences between them, it's really not that significant to worry about. Now, of course, you do have to consider the rank 1, all that extra bulk. Clearly, we have to be missing out on one matchup, at least one matchup, and we are missing out on exactly one matchup. Despite all the gains that we get for going for the higher attack stat, the Shadow Gallade in the one shield situation with the higher bulk and the higher HP, the rank 1 Dragalge does have the potential to reach double Aqua Tail to take out Gallade in the 1-1 shield situation. That said, if the Gallade is swapping into your Dragalge, you may have a fast move or two above it, and you'll be reaching the double Aqua Tail anyways, so it's not that big of a deal. And if you play around with the Sims enough, you probably will notice the S-Cavalier matchup, and the S-Cavalier matchup is complete nonsense, so don't even begin to worry about it, because for you to meet the defense breakpoint check, they have to be exactly the rank 1. If their attack stat's a little bit higher, then you're going to be missing out on it anyways, so whatever. And that's all you need to know and more for Dragalge in the Premier Cup Ultra League. Now, I don't think Dragalge is all that great in the Open Ultra League, just because the competition is a lot more fierce. You also have Confusion Mewtwo to deal with, and you're not flipping matchups on the Giratinas. But the 156 attack stat can get breakpoints on the Giratinas too, so if it ever does become good in the Open Ultra League, well, the high attack split, it's going to be the one there too, most likely. At any rate, if you got any questions on this content, comment below, let me know what's up. I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more like it, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. When we start to reach the next leg of the Great League season, I do have a Diggersby deep dive IV video coming out for that to help you build right so you don't have to build twice, and I may be finally finishing my research on the new Azumarill XL. So if you're interested in that stuff, well, make sure to subscribe. I'd also give a special shout out to these patron supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. I just love seahorses, seashells. I like them on blankets, little bags, towels. Just love seahorses and seashell things.